Welcome to SDH's coverage of the NPSL championship game. It is Denton Diablos and it is Tulsa Athletic. Over the next little while, we will be giving you both sides as they get ready for this big match this weekend. And it's an interesting perspective that we're going to be getting from both teams. Sonny Dalesandro joins us, the owner of Tulsa Athletic. We talk a little food, talk a lot of soccer. We also are joined by Joe Ruiz, one of the stalwarts out of the back for Tulsa Athletic. Then we get the Denton Diablos perspective. Trevor Amann joins us, as well as Eoin Wearen, the center back and captain for Denton. So it's Sonny Dalesandro, Joe Ruiz, Trevor Amann, and Eoin Wearen. Give you the particulars for the championship game this weekend. And it's been the sprint that the NPSL has always been chasing after. And Denton, just think about it. Denton has only been in for a couple of seasons. It's their second year. They're making it to the championship game. Tulsa Athletic head coach Levi Coleman was named 2021 NPSL coach of the season. And as we get you ready for the championship game, it's going to be in the Central Time Zone. Denton Diablos, the number 3 out of the West region. Tulsa, the number 4 out of the South region. 7:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 local time on Saturday at Denton High School in Denton, Texas. If you can get there, go and watch quality football that you can catch. And it's a championship game. So Denton High School at 8:30 Eastern time on Saturday night. Denton Diablos, Tulsa Athletic. They will be chasing after the NPSL National Championship. So as promised, let's get you the Tulsa perspective as they hit the road and head to Denton High School and the home of the Denton Diablos. First off, let's catch up with owner Sonny Dalesandro. So how does it feel being in a final?
It's our third one this year. The big one. Yeah, it feels fantastic. I think from top to bottom, everyone at all the clubs puts in a lot of work, but I think when you get there, it's nice, almost as a token, as a gesture to everyone who's put in all those work over the years to be like, hey, we're in the final, like we're in the final. So, yeah, it feels great. We're excited. We're pretty relaxed. The news was out yesterday, and they were like, "Are the boys always this relaxed?" Like, yeah. It's we're not gonna let our nerves get worked up or anything like that. It's a cup final. You got to just go out there and enjoy yourselves.
What has this ride been like for you since the birthing of the franchise and to now? What has this whole arc been like for you?
Oh man, that's we don't have nearly enough time for that. It's when we first started out in 2013, we were hanging pretty significant attendance figures in terms of at that time, I think we were averaging just a little bit under 3,500 fans a game. We were right around the top 30 in attendance overall, with that being mostly occupied by MLS clubs. So, the early days of the club was, how do we continue to grow this into something professional? What does that arc look like? And we got a little blindsided by the USL team that was launched here, and we're on good terms with the new ownership. But there was some really some moments. And look, there's 2 teams in one city all over the world, so it's okay to have a chip on your shoulder for a crosstown team or whatever. But at that time, we felt kind of like it was definitely hindering our growth, and why not partner with a club that was solely about its community? So that was something that we kind of had to figure out personality wise, like, who are we still? And we just kind of stuck to our guns and just said, look, we're always going to be this team that's 100% about our community. And I think the next thing that happened was we lost our stadium. We had an 11,000 seat former it used to be a AA baseball stadium that we removed like 9 sections of bleachers to extend the field to 110 yards, which you don't see a lot of amateur clubs doing demolition scales on that project. So we had invested a lot of time and resources and money into developing that stadium. So when we lost that, we still had this kind of punk rock club feel to ourselves. So we're like, we'll play in a park, and we'll have local food trucks out there just like we did, and kind of resign. We put a taco and a beer on our crest for a season, and like, look, this is who we are. Come out. It's free to come. put some chairs up, bring your cooler, but like we still wanted to have that tribal connection to the community. And we were successful in doing that. And that was a big turning point for us, because I think if in that first year in the park, it wouldn't have been successful, I think that we would have had to really re-examine what we were doing, what our direction was, and what our, if maybe that was it. But it was really well received. Sundays out at the park are such a wonderful experience. If you're ever in Tulsa, or if any of the listeners are ever in Tulsa, please stop by and see us and have a beer and watch the match. So, that worked out really well. And, we've always had a competitive side. We've always been right there. When we played Southern States in the regional final, that was our third trip to the regional final. So getting over that hump was really massive. So yeah, we're happy to be here. It's an honor, in a league with 90 some odd teams, to be, one of the last two standing. That's always a huge honor. And, I'm sure we're excited for Denton as well, because that's what a journey they've had also. So
when you look at your wins and losses, has it sunk in that the club hasn't lost since March?
I think we got beat in May. I think Oklahoma City beat us at home in May, but no, we don't really look at it through that lens. And you'll hear people and coaches and players say that, but it really is true. Like, we can't really control anything that's already happened. So it's a pretty linear thing that we do during the week. Training is geared towards our next opponent. If there's some corrective fixes from a win or a loss, we'll apply those to what the week looks like. But there's really no sense in spending too much time going over the past unless there's something to learn from it. So, and that mantra has served us pretty well. So our focus right now is solely on Denton. And if you were to ask me this question last week, it wouldn't have been on the national final. It would have been solely on Christos in Baltimore. So yeah, we just kind of keep that lens of it can only really ever be what's in front of us. And that seemed to serve us pretty well this year.
All right. Two final questions, and thanks for hanging out for the preview. One has to do with the outer sections of the Christos match, and it comes to the travel aspect. And I know that a lot of folks may not necessarily understand what it's like for teams in the NPSL to pack up their belongings, travel halfway across the country, and do this. And obviously the Heartland has its own travel, and you're used to that. But what's it like for an NPSL team to travel halfway around the country? What misconceptions are out there that need to be tackled that folks can understand about the NPSL and getting from point A to point B to making sure that you're as successful as you can be?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think that I'm lucky enough to be able to answer it by saying the NPSL does a really, really good job, that a good portion of our budget goes towards those national semi and national final, and even at the regional level, travel expenses. Because the last thing the league wants to do is overextend a team. You look at, I'm not going to name any other leagues, but the last thing any league wants to do in this country, but it can pop up, is, you're in Florida or New York and you've got to travel to California on your own dime. It's like, that can add up quick. That can be $30,000-$40,000. And, unless you're that guy, and I'm not that guy, I make spaghetti for a living. So, the NPSL does a really good job of alleviating some of those pressures from teams that have to travel. There's a budgeted in travel expense. So the travel down to Denton, luckily for our supporters, is relatively minimal. So we're planning on bringing a good group of fans down there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's something where you do have to expect a little bit that if it goes over what the league stipend is, that there's some out-of-pocket expenses there. But, at the same time, if you're going to be successful, sometimes you also have to be prepared for that success. So budget in an extra $5,000-$10,000, something like that in your annual budget, because you never know when Baltimore Christos comes calling and you got to go play one of the most legendary men's league clubs and NPSL clubs in the country.
Last question for you. If Tulsa Athletic were an item on the Dalesandro's menu, what would it be?
I credit to you there. That's a question I've never heard before. Man, I think it would probably be just like linguine with meatballs. rustic, simple, blue collar to the point. And if you can't get that right, what are you doing in the first place, right?
Then, as promised, catching up with one of the stalwarts out of the back, Joe Ruiz. Joe, with his time, has spent time at Oral Roberts. He spent time at the University of Tulsa, so he knows what the landscape is when it comes to Tulsa Athletic and their piece in it. We caught up with Joe in a rather unique place. Let's just say he was in a car, but no, he was not driving. The 22-year-old center back was a passenger in the car as we were getting ready for Tulsa to hit the road to get to Denton. So once again, defender Joe Ruiz, great conversation with the Tulsa Athletic center back, one of the more athletic players you'll see in the NPSL. First question's the obvious one. How does it feel to be playing in the last game of the year?
It feels amazing, to be honest. It's something I've always dreamed of, playing in a national championship. So it's pretty amazing. I'm super excited to be out there on Saturday.
What's the run been like for you guys? Because I know that the Heartland is traditionally very, very tough. You have your rivals in it. What was it like to go through there? And I think only losing once in the Heartland this year. What was that ride been like?
It started off with kind of down. We had high expectations and we didn't start so strong, as strong as we would like. But things kind of grew together. We got some more players in, and it's been great. Ever since that loss, we've kind of been on an uprise. As Sonny would say, we peaked at the right time. We're peaking towards the end of the season, so it's been great. And then in the conference tournament, it's kind of just been, we scored in like the 99th minute to tie the game to send it to overtime. So it's kind of just been unreal. It's been an unreal feeling.
You mentioned bringing in all the new guys, and with that, there takes some time for integrating and knowing where relationships and communication are and all this kind of stuff. Was there a moment where everything kind of fit and you're like, okay, we are, you're peaking at the right time, understanding that, but was there a moment out there? Was there a particular game where you're sitting there saying, okay, we're locked into each other right now. We know that group think is working, or is that moment still coming, do you think?
I think that moment was, it happened when we played OKC. OKC was the team that beat us when we played them the second time, and we ended up winning 2-0, I believe. And that moment just felt like we played a full, complete 90 minutes. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone was working hard for each other. So yeah, that was that moment.
When you look at things, and I know that, this is a sprint. I mean, literally, this is like you're there for a couple of weeks, you get into your schedule, then you're getting into playoffs and things like that. Have you had a chance to just even catch your breath for like 15 seconds and go, man, this has been a real special ride this year?
Honestly, I was just thinking about it this last week, and I was just that's when it all hit me. Like, it's kind of crazy to think that I always believed, but you don't really see it until you get there,
When folks folks there in Tulsa know about Tulsa Athletic. Yes. And they know where it is as a part of the fabric and the framework and the footprint of soccer there in Oklahoma. For someone who's never seen your team play, what does soccer mean to Tulsa, to the fan base, and to the state of Oklahoma? Because I know of your time there at ORU. What is the soccer vibe and the footprint, especially there in Tulsa?
The soccer vibe for us, I mean, everyone's super committed. Like, the fans, they'll volunteer their time to come out, whether that's help set the field up for game day or, just anything they can do to help in any way, they will do it. They love the club. It's kind of like we're one big family in Tulsa. And as I said, like, a great example of that was when we got off the airport in Baltimore. It was interesting to see that we had fans come out and like clap and just wait for us. Like they were super excited for us to come back. And also like 2 years ago, I was on this team as well. And we flew to Miami for the South Regional Final, furthest we have ever made it. We ended up losing that game 4-1. And we still come back to the airport and there's still fans there. Like that's how much it meant to them. Just being there clapping almost as if we were like celebrities to them. But yeah, I know it means a lot to them.
For someone who hasn't seen you play this year and will be watching the game against Denton for the first time, how would you describe the philosophy of Tulsa soccer?
It's going to be a hardworking team that is going to try to impose our game on it, try to get some early goals, and it's going to be a hardworking team. It's going to be grit. We're not going to let anything be easy for the other team.
How much studying have you done on Denton? What has study hall been like, or is it just pretty much focusing on yourselves and sitting there going, okay, I might check something out on YouTube or something like that just to get an all 22 ideas to what's going on? What has study hall been like, or has it been more opening up your own books and sitting there and rereading your own chapters?
So our head coach, Levi Coleman, he does a lot of the film. I know he's watched a few games on them, and he's kind of prepared us at practice to like where we can expose them in the attack and like how they're dangerous while they're attacking. So we've kind of gone over things that we can do during the game that will help us set up for success.
All right. So my last question for you has to do with Dalesandro's restaurant.
Yeah.
And I talked to Sonny, and I got I asked him, I said, if Tulsa Athletic was something on the menu, I said, what would it be? And so he gave me his answer. First off, have you eaten at the restaurant?
I have.
Okay. So if you would put Tulsa Athletic on the menu, or if you could compare it to something on the menu, what do you think it would be and why? Is there an Italian dish? Is there an Italian dish that kind of sticks in your mind, maybe, or a dessert?
I would say, we eat there for every pregame meal that we have later on in the day, like our game. So it's got to be the spaghetti and meatballs, just because that's what we eat before our games.
That's why I was asking, because I wanted to find out what the vibe was with the guys and what you thought that it might be. That's just, spaghetti and meatballs. It's a go-to. It's very basic, but you can't go wrong with it. And so that's why I figured. He said the linguine, so that's what he said.
I've only ate there like twice, so I don't really know the menu that well.
But I understand where you're coming from. Joe, please be safe. Just have fun. Enjoy the championship. Thanks for doing this in a moving vehicle, by the way. That's one of the first times that we've had an athlete interview inside a moving vehicle. So just enjoy the match, go get them in the championship, and thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for having me.
Now to catch you up on the other side of things, the home side, Denton Diablos, very, very young team in the NPSL. They have made their way to the last game of the year. Wearen, Trevor Amann, two of the guys that are definite stalwarts, one at the back and one putting goals in the back of the net to lead Denton to the last game of the year. It's a 2-on-1. It's a 2v1. Traditionally we do 1v1s, but since they joined at the same time, we catch up with Eoin and we catch up with Trevor in one place. It's the 2v1 for the Denton Diablos as they get ready for Tulsa Athletic in the last game of the year. All right, so it's time for a little 2v1 as we catch up with life in Denton. And Trevor, let me start with you. What's it like getting ready for a championship? What has this run been like for Denton this season?
It's been amazing. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, but I think everybody's finally started to pick up the right mentality and kind of started to believe that we can actually do this. So now we're just spending this week getting prepared and going over the last couple things, and then we play in 2 days. So I think everybody's getting pretty excited.
So Eoin, what what attracted you to playing in Denton with the Diablos in the first place? What brought you to this roster and to this club?
Yeah, so I moved to the US January 2020, and I previously played professionally in Europe for 12 years, and I came over here to coach, but I still had that itch to keep playing, and I tried to find the highest level I could play at while still being able to coach full time, and that's when I came across the NPSL as a league, and then came across teams like the Diablos and Vaqueros and stuff like that. But honestly, as soon as I met the likes of Damon and I heard the plans for the club going forward, it was a no-brainer for me, and that's why I'm not too surprised to see that we've got to this stage, because I know the ambition that's there for the club.
Trevor, when you look back at this season in general, was there one game or one moment where you sat there and you said, hey, there's something special here, and I think we really could make a long run at stuff? Was that one moment available to you?
Honestly, it probably came later than I expected it to. I would say the Golden State game, when we went down 2-0 in the first half, and then we were able to battle back and win the game 4-2. I think that would be the turning point for me. And that was kind of like showed me that this team can play against the better sides, and we can compete, and we can play all the way through to the end. So.
Oh, and what was that like? You're down 2-0, and obviously there's no quit in this bunch, but when you're down 2-0 and things just start rolling like that, what's that feeling like when things just start humming and you're just starting to steamroll somebody like that to come back and get a big win?
For me, it wasn't even, a surprise. And I think that comes with kind of experience that, especially when you're a defender and you've got as many great attacking players as we have, that you've always got a chance of winning the game. And it's just a matter of us creating the opportunities for them and making sure we don't concede anymore at the other end. And, with the form of Trevor and a few others in recent weeks, I just feel like we can take on anybody at the moment, and it's going to take a hell of a team to stop them.
So, Trevor, when you look at the opposition in Tulsa, what has study hall been like as you're getting ready for this? I mean, obviously, I could sit here and run through a bunch of cliches, but it would be $1 in the jar each time to the general fund for dropping cliches in an interview. But as you're getting ready for this one, what has study hall been like getting ready for Tulsa?
For me, study hall is more getting myself mentally prepared. I'll probably briefly look at their game against Baltimore, maybe tomorrow or like Saturday morning. But for me, it's mainly I just go out there and do what I can do. And when I'm doing what I do best, I feel like nobody can stop me. So I don't really pay attention to who I have to play that much.
So, Eoin, when you're looking at a team like this, I mean, is it or in a situation like this, is it more to this point? It's like, we know what we can do. We're just going to go out there and play our game, and they're going to match what we can do. Is that pretty much the mentality of the guys in general?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you have to respect every opposition that you play. And I think that's been a big thing for us this year, is that we have done that. And obviously you're playing in a national championship final, and out of, I think it was 90 odd teams that started off in the competition, and we're in the final two. So, Tulsa deserved that as much as we have. So we have to give them, credit for that and respect for that. But I think our strength as the year has gone on has been a little bit like what Trevor's mentality there said. Ramon wants us to worry about us, focus on how we play, our style, how we can influence the game. And that gives the players confidence, and it's worked for us so far. So we're not going to change it this weekend.
Trevor, when you look at the fabric of the franchise and the fan base and all of those that add up to a successful soccer football footprint, what does the sport mean to the fan base there? And from what you guys have been able to gather, Trevor, you first, what's it been like to see the fan response coming out of what we've been going through in the last 17 months? What's the fabric of soccer like there in the north end of the Metroplex?
I think it's growing for sure, especially in the Denton area. Now that I think since we've gone so far in this competition, that I think people are starting to take notice of that and starting to actually realize like soccer is like kind of serious. Um, but I think it's been good. I mean, I think our fan base personally is growing as well. Like we're only getting bigger at this point. We're not really staying the same or shrinking or anything like that. So it's been a good response from the fans, and I'm happy we get to do this for them. So,
Eoin, from your perspective, what have you been able to garner from the supporters and see how they've been able to wrap themselves around what you guys have been able to do this season?
I think people have to put into perspective as well that this is the second season that the Diablos have, been in this competition, and we're such a new club still. And when you're in the early stages, success definitely brings out more fans and stuff like that. And I think the key to us, as I've noticed the games, is the amount of kids that now come to the games. Even the kids that I coach, they love the games, not just the on the field stuff, but off the field. I think the Diablos as a club are creating a really good, game day experience for people, for families and stuff like that. And I think that's, been a big asset to us this year. And as I said, we've had plenty of home games over the last few weeks, in big games, and the crowd has definitely impacted us in a positive way.
Trevor, when you're in a season that is as much of a sprint as this one is, you've got to get to full song pretty quickly. For someone who hasn't seen Denton play soccer this year, how would you describe your philosophy and approach on a game-by-game basis?
Well, I mean, our coach just tells us every game to stick to your functions, do what we've been doing this whole time, and to never change. Like we don't change. We can go down a goal, we won't change. We can go up a goal, we won't change. We all have a belief in our ability as a team to work together and do what we've been doing this whole time, and that has produced pretty good results for us.
And Eoin, obviously being, team captain and being the guy that's kind of orchestrating things out of the back. What's it like being a veteran voice as you've been advancing through conference play, through the playoffs, and getting to this? Obviously, a lot of the younger players look to players like you in this situation. What's it like with that responsibility, getting through a season and getting to the last game of the year that you can have?
Look, I think it's great, and I really enjoy the role, because I think you see two elements with young players. You see, some players, they have no fear. They don't care who they're up against. They don't care the magnitude of the game. They just play without that fear. And then you have other players who maybe are the opposite, and you can see the occasion maybe getting to them. And, this will be, the biggest game of some of the boys' careers so far. And, trying to mentally prepare them that, keep doing the stuff that you've been doing, all the stuff that's got us this year, because I also genuinely believe that there's several players in our group that are capable of playing at a higher level as well. And, if they have those aspirations, then, these are the type of games where they need to show up and, and show how capable they are playing in big games and stuff. And, I've got, a lot of faith in them in that regard, not just from a talent point of view, but I think they're made of the right stuff, and we've got some great characters in the group.
Trevor, before this match, what was the biggest match in your career?
Probably, I don't know, just like the NCAA playoffs, I'd say. Yeah,
Okay.
Pretty much about it.
So how have you changed as a player from that time in the NCAA to now, do you think?
I've just started to more focus on my mental side of the game and like how I prepare myself mentally. And then just knowing that I'm not a bad player. I can play soccer, and just keeping that in the back of my head and not letting like little mistakes or little things get to me to kind of push me away from how I play or push me away from my game. So I would say, yeah, from then to now, the mental aspect of my game has drastically changed.
Eoin, what about you? The biggest game that you played in last time out before this one, and how you have changed as a player since?
Hard to say. The biggest one, you know, I'm probably going way back now. When I was an under-19, I played in a European Championship semi-final against Spain for Ireland. You know, that was a huge occasion at the time. It was the first time I ever played in front of 15, 20,000 people. And, you know, I've played in several big games, you know, similar maybe since. But, you know, I think, and Trevor will back me up on this, but one thing Ramon's preached all year is that it doesn't matter where any of us have come from, you know, what games we've played in before, your next game is your biggest game. And he's been saying that right from the first game of the season. You know, it's not worrying about future games or past games, but the next game is the biggest game. And I think the fact that we're taking it one game at a time and, you know, we're staying so kind of, you know, staying so neutral about it, you know, has been a big factor in our success this year.
So once again, reminder, 8:20 is when the broadcast starts, 8:30-ish Eastern time. Denton Diablos, Denton High School, hosting Tulsa Athletic. The number 3 in the West region, the number 4 in the South region, Denton Diablos FC and Tulsa Athletic. They are going to be chasing after the NPSL National Championship. Go to 11sports.com and you can click on the Denton Diablos section of the event viewer in the match calendar, and you can link to the game itself. Denton Diablos, Tulsa Athletics, Saturday night at 8:20 Eastern time is when everything starts pregame, kickoff shortly thereafter. So once again, the sprint that we all know that is the NPSL comes to a conclusion in Denton, Texas, as the Diablos hosting Tulsa Athletic. Great run by the 90-plus teams that are a part of the NPSL to get to the national championship. We are down to the final 2. Enjoy. If you can get to Denton, Texas, watch it for the national championship. Very rare that you get to see a national championship up close. If you're in Denton, you're in the Metroplex, any way to get to Denton, go watch the Denton Diablos Tulsa Athletic. Go to 11sports.com, click on the match calendar, and you can get all the information you need to watch the match if you cannot be there in person. Thanks to Gary Moody and the NPSL for giving us the folks that we got to talk to from the Denton side and from the Tulsa side to find out about what these two teams mean to the fabric and the footprint of their respective areas and to the NPSL in general. It's been a tremendous NPSL season. We'll be watching along with you. For Soccer Down Here, I'm John Nelson. That's your look at the NPSL.